Favorite youth sports memory. To be honest, it probably wasn't even a game or anything like that. It was the thing I can remember the most was growing up every single Sunday, whether it was because I played a lot of sports. I didn't just play baseball, so every Sunday, no matter what sport I was in, I would always ask my dad. I would beg my dad to take me up to the baseball field and hit batting practice. So no matter we were out there hitting in 35, 40-degree weather. No matter what the weather was, I always every single Sunday, it's like what I look forward to the most. We'd go to the church in the morning, go get lunch, and then every Sunday, no matter what time of year, I was like, Dad, can you please take me up to the ball field? I want to hit batting practice. And he never said no to me one time. So I can remember those days hitting batting practice probably more than I can remember any event or any tournament that I went to.
Man, that's so cool.
That's awesome. So JT, let's dig into that a little more. I know you came from a big sports family, and you played just about everything. Can you kind of walk us through your journey, just from being a little kid, all the way up until when you decided baseball is the one, and just kind of tell us about that.
Yeah, so there's a lot there because growing up, I played just about every sport I could because I always, from a young age, I just loved sports and competing. I started off, my first couple sports were wrestling and baseball. Getting into t-ball, getting into wrestling, those were my first two loves growing up. Then started playing a little basketball around middle school. Football I started playing in, I want to say fourth grade was the first year they let us wear pads. So started football in fourth grade. Continued that through high school. I wrestled from the time I was about 4 till ninth grade, and then kind of knew my future. I wanted my future to be either in baseball or football at that time. So I didn't love the idea of cutting weight during the winter, during wrestling season, and so I kind of stopped wrestling in ninth grade, and then picked up basketball more as kind of my off season, staying in shape thing. So did that through high school. I did baseball, basketball, and football in high school. And then in middle school, I also played on the tennis team, and then loved playing tennis. I picked that up in seventh grade, played through ninth grade, and then my baseball coach made me quit tennis because it was the same time as baseball season. So, but yeah, I pretty much played every sport I could.
JT, did you feel any pressure? Because I've read where you've got an amazing sports family, and especially in wrestling. Was it a tough act to follow? I mean, did you love wrestling, or baseball just you loved it more? Or did the family kind of put any pressure on you to focus on wrestling at all?
You know what? I definitely felt pressure to keep wrestling. I don't know if that was from my family putting it on me or me just, putting that on myself. But nothing but support once I did decide to just stop wrestling and play basketball. But in the back of my mind, I was always like, oh, are they mad at me for not wrestling anymore? Because that's just probably something as a kid I was putting on myself. But I think even at that age, when I was in ninth grade, I think everybody could kind of tell that baseball was probably going to be my future, either baseball or football. So nobody gave me too hard a time about it.
Growing up, we always, a lot of our, listeners and a lot of us, our parents were such huge impacts in our lives. What kind of role did your mom and dad play as you were growing up playing sports?
Oh, they were everything. So I had 3 older siblings. I had an older brother and 2 older sisters. And my dad, so to give you a little background, my mom's side of the family, they were the whole wrestling family. So everything on my mom's side was all wrestling. All my cousins wrestled, all my uncles wrestled. And then my dad, he was the first one, he married into the family, and he was the big baseball player. He loved baseball, played in college. He's the one who really got us all started in baseball. And my 2 older sisters both played softball at the Division I level. So they were older than me, and he coached their softball teams through the summers. So I never really got him as a coach necessarily, but my mom I was the youngest child, and she kind of got me thrown on her where she had to be the one taking me to the ball games, taking me to the ballpark. So she was a huge part of me growing up, just because without her, I probably wouldn't have been able to play sports because my dad was so busy with the older siblings. And then, like I said, my dad always made time for me every Sunday afternoon when I wanted to go to the cage. Sometimes when I didn't want to go to the cage, he was there to help me get there and get better.
You think back to growing up, you don't have to name who they are, but name one thing, one coach that you loved and why, and one coach that maybe you didn't like and what he did that, you didn't love as a player being coached by him.
Yeah. So I was pretty fortunate that all my coaches when I grew up, and I think this is also a testament to my parents, is they would never put me on teams that the sole focus of that, 8 and under, 10 and under team was to win a tournament. So I was never on teams that it was only about winning. It was always about like being able to play with my friends. The coaches were there to, direct us and help us and coach us, but also like we're there to have fun. And they kept that their priority is like, we're not going to be too hard on these kids. We're not going to be too strict on them. We want our team to have fun. And in turn, like we were fortunate enough, we always had good teams. So like I can always remember loving my coaches. And I had the same pretty much 2 coaches all the way growing up till high school. And they were both just incredible to me because I don't know if it's because I was a good player or what, but like they were never hard on me. It was always about having fun. They were always there to correct me when I was doing wrong. But at the end of the day, they weren't scolding me. They weren't making it about, hey, we got to win this tournament. That's all that matters. It's like, no, we're going to go out. We're going to have fun. We're going to the hotel after and everybody jump in the pool and do all the fun things the kids should be doing at Little League tournaments.
JT, for our audience who might not be as familiar, you've won several Gold Gloves as a catcher. I know in high school you were a quarterback in football. I think you played some shortstop in baseball. When did were you playing catcher in high school? And if not, or if you did, when did you start honing those skills to become a Gold Glove catcher?
So I played catcher for, I want to say 2 games in high school, 2 games my senior year. I was a shortstop all the way growing up. But I don't know if it was destiny or what, because both of my older sisters I mentioned that played softball, they were both catchers in college. But for me, I played shortstop all growing up. And then 2 games my senior year, our catcher happened to be pitching those 2 games, and they needed to throw somebody behind the plate. So our coach threw me back there. Stan Meek and Steve Taylor were the Marlins scouts at the time for my area, and they happened to be at one of those games I caught. And they came and talked to me immediately and said, like, hey, have you ever thought about being a catcher in the future? Like, we love your tools behind the plate. We like your arm action. We like your footwork. We think, with some work, you could be pretty good back there. And I remember I was, I think, a junior in high school at the time, or maybe senior. And I told them that day, I was like, whatever you think is going to get me to the big leagues, I'll do it. So for a couple of years, I regretted saying that because once I got to the minor leagues and first started catching, it was a whole different world than trying to catch my high school pitcher. I was back there getting my butt kicked every day, and it was a lot of work. And I honestly, I think all the way up until 3 or 4 years ago, I was really still working on the craft of catching and trying to figure myself out and figure out how my body moves. And obviously I'm still working this day, like to try to get better, but I think I made considerable strides maybe 3 or 4 years ago and kind of started to figure out how my body works.
JT, how younger were you when you started kind of having those dreams and those goals that you kind of wanted to, especially in baseball? Like at what age did you say, hey, I really think this is, I could maybe play in college or even beyond? How old were you?
I was probably middle school, maybe 8th or 9th grade. Young high school or late in middle school is when I started to realize, like, hey, I always loved baseball, but I never knew how good I was going to be or how much work I was willing to put in. And I think once I started playing basketball and like I would leave basketball tournaments and ask my dad, hey, I want to go to the cage. I think that's when I started to realize, man, I really love this. And like, I enjoy putting the work in. And my dad always instilled in me, if I worked hard, I was going to make it. And, so I really never had any doubt that I had the ability to make it. It was just whether I loved it enough to put in the work to do so. And I started to figure that out, sometime in middle school, high school.
So JT, even though you played other sports, did you work on your craft of baseball year round, as a teenager? What did your training look like?
So my dad was pretty strict on me as far as like he never let me play baseball if it wasn't baseball season, like the summers, So I always begged to play fall ball. I always begged to do like these random, travel tournaments with my friends. But, if I was in football season or I was in basketball season, he would always say no. And, he didn't tell me at the time, but later on he told me he wanted me to want to get to baseball season. Like he never wanted to burn me out of playing ball growing up. So by the time baseball season rolled around, he wanted me to be begging to get out there and play baseball, So I never didn't want to play. I never got burnt out of it. So other than like the Sunday afternoon where he would take me up and hit with me for an hour or two at the field, that was pretty much the only baseball I would do if it wasn't smack dab in the middle of Little League season.